I married my colleague Thomas. However, after quitting his job, he invited his mother, Michelle, and his younger sister, Emma, to move into our apartment. Thomas, being prideful, continued pretending to be a full-time employee at a major company in front of them. Since they contributed nothing to the household expenses, I worked tirelessly to earn $4,000 each month for rent and living costs. Despite this, Michelle and Emma made daily snide remarks at me. One day, I overheard them bad-mouthing me to the neighbors. When I confronted them, they verbally abused me.
You should be grateful we let you stay in this house.
You only survive because of Thomas.
Fine, then I'll stop being both his wife and the breadwinner. When I presented a signed divorce agreement, Thomas looked shaken.
Don't take their jokes so seriously.
But I grabbed my suitcase, opened the front door, and said, "Goodbye. If you want to play happy family, I'll gladly disappear. Whatever happens to you all afterward is no concern of mine. My name is Laura, and I'm a 48-year-old homemaker working from home. I've been married to my husband, Thomas, for 5 years. Thomas used to work for a major corporation, Brown Industries. When we met, we were both team leaders on our respective project teams and often discussed work over lunch. As we got closer, we kept in touch even after our teams were dissolved. Thomas's kindness and thoughtfulness gradually drew me in, and eventually, he confessed his feelings for me, and we started dating. I truly believed we could build a warm and loving home together. Never did I imagine that trust would be shattered so quickly. When we got married, we moved into a newly built apartment. We could have lived in a small old apartment near Thomas's office for a while and saved up for our own house, but Thomas refused it.
We're both working full-time and earning enough to cover it, right?
That's true, but there are plenty of cheaper places. Why not go for something more affordable? I wouldn't even mind a used apartment. Thomas shook his head at my suggestion.
No way. All my coworkers get financial help from their parents and live in high-end apartments. Why should we lower our standards?
In the end, he overruled me, and we signed a lease for a $3,000 a month rental. At the time, our combined annual income exceeded $100,000, so I figured it'd be fine. However, just 3 months after we started living in the apartment, Thomas suddenly quit his job.
I just couldn't get along with my boss. I've been holding it in, but I've hit my limit.
He immediately started looking for a new job, but aimed for something better than his previous position.
I want a job with a bigger bonus than before and weekends and holidays completely off.
Because of that, he couldn't find a full-time position and ended up working part-time at a restaurant. With Thomas's income significantly reduced, things became tense, and then the idea of living together with his mom came up.
After Dad passed away 3 years ago, Mom's been really lonely. It'd be tough on Emma, who's getting married soon, to live with her right after tying the knot. Her husband might not like it.
So it's okay if I'm the one who has to put up with it. I felt uneasy. Noticing my expression, Thomas cheerfully said,
It'll be fine. Mom's a great person, so living in the same house won't be stressful at all.
"Well, okay."
Oh, and by the way, I'd like you to quit your job too.
I stared at him in shock. Why?
Your company has so much overtime and weekend work that the housework gets neglected, right? I don't mind, but Mom's a clean freak and she probably wouldn't like it. That's why I want you to become a homemaker and take care of Mom.
Why can't Thomas just help with the chores? That's what I thought. But Thomas can't cook and has never cleaned on his own. Before we got married, he lived at home, leaving all the cooking and laundry to his mom, Michelle. I suggested we split the chores, but he quickly refused, saying he was too busy. And here I am, juggling work and housework every day as best I can. I swallowed my frustration and responded carefully. Well, maybe I could use my experience to work on my computer from home. If I work remotely, I could adjust my hours more easily. Thomas smiled at my suggestion.
That would be a big help.
I'll talk to my boss about it tomorrow. I responded casually, but his words nagged at me. He made being a homemaker sound so simple, but if I quit my job, our lives would fall apart. Right now, I'm paying for most of the living expenses and the jointly held mortgage on our home. Thomas didn't seem to realize this. Despite my worries, Michelle came barging into our lives.
I'm so happy. I bragged to the neighbors back home that Thomas invited me to live with him.
Mom, you're exaggerating.
Thomas, wearing a big grin, had firmly instructed me not to mention that he was now working part-time.
I'll be back at a big company soon enough. No need to make her worry unnecessarily.
For the record, I didn't particularly like or dislike Michelle. Like most daughters-in-law, I just hoped we could maintain a polite distance. But that idea was shattered within a few days of living together.
Laura, don't worry. Mom said she'll help with the housework since she's not working.
Really? That's great. Even though I'm home, I spend more than half the day working on the computer, so her help would really lighten the load. This was the conversation Thomas and I had before Michelle moved in, but once she was living with us, she didn't lift a finger to help. On the contrary, she took over the living room as her personal space, left dirty dishes on the table, and scattered crumbs from her snacks everywhere. And yet, if the walls or floors were even slightly dirty, she would launch into passive-aggressive complaints.
Laura, there's grease splattered on the kitchen wall. Are you cleaning properly?
Sorry.
The window frames are dirty. Don't you know it's common sense to clean all the windows every day? You should also be mopping the floors regularly. You have time to play on the computer, so you can do it, right?
Frustrated, I finally confronted her. Michelle, as I've explained many times, I work on my computer. I'm constantly on a tight schedule, so I can't dedicate as much time to housework as I'd like. But she would always respond with a condescending smile.
Acting all high and mighty when all you do is doodle. There's no way anyone would pay you for that.
After hearing this day in and day out, I felt my stomach tighten with stress. When I confided in Thomas, he just laughed it off.
Mom's old-fashioned. She thinks computers are just toys. She'll come around eventually, so just ignore her.
Just as my frustration was building, Thomas's sister, Emma, ended up moving in with us as well. And, of course, it was Michelle's idea.
Emma's partner cheated on her, so the engagement was called off. Since it was an office romance, she didn't want to deal with the awkwardness from her coworkers and ended up quitting her job.
I see.
Michelle and Thomas exchanged concerned looks over the dinner table.
Emma said she can't afford her apartment rent, so I invited her here.
Invited her? This is my and Thomas's house, not yours, Michelle. Since barging into our lives, Michelle hadn't paid a single cent for living expenses, constantly complained, and even made me prepare her drinks. She frequently asked Thomas for spending money, which she used for trips and concerts. In the end, I've been managing the increased grocery and utility bills by cutting down on my own personal expenses and tightening our household budget. And now Emma, who's also unemployed, is moving in. My burden just keeps growing. Before bed that night, I pleaded with Thomas. If Emma's moving in, we need to ask her to contribute to the grocery and utility bills. I'm already struggling to make ends meet. If our expenses go up any further, I'll be completely broke. I showed Thomas the budget app on my phone, but he just smiled nonchalantly.
How could I turn away my sweet sister Emma when she's in trouble?
I get that, but if helping family meant putting us into debt, it would be disastrous.
Don't worry, Emma's only 40. She'll find a new job soon. Once she does, we'll have her contribute to the household.
Really? Make sure you tell her that clearly. After confirming this, I reluctantly agreed. When Emma arrived, she turned out to be quite different from Michelle. She actually understood the concept of working from home. At dinner with all four of us, she even explained it to Michelle.
Mom, you're so old-fashioned. These days, people can work from home using their computers. They even do online meetings and everything.
Really? I didn't know that.
Seeing Michelle's forced smile gave me a small sense of satisfaction. However, my relief was short-lived. Emma looked at me with a mischievous grin.
But calling that a real job, it's more like something a student intern would do.
What do you mean?
Looking puzzled, Michelle tilted her head as Emma smugly explained.
The pay is ridiculously low. Basically, Laura is being supported by Thomas. Right, Laura?
It's not that low. I was about to argue when Thomas stepped in.
Enough, Emma. Laura works hard to contribute to our household income, and she takes care of all the housework too. I have no complaints. We're family, so let's all get along, okay?
With Thomas's forced smile, Emma pouted but reluctantly muttered.
Well, if you say so.
Thomas's intervention managed to prevent further conflict. One evening, as I walked down the hallway after my bath, I overheard Michelle and Emma talking in the living room.
Hey, Mom, does Laura always act so stuck up?
Emma asked in an annoyed tone.
From what I saw today, she talks to Thomas like they're equals, even though she's just his wife, and she doesn't show any respect for us. Thomas spoils her way too much.
Exactly.
Michelle exclaimed loudly, agreeing wholeheartedly.
She has no sense of her role as a wife, and it really irritates me. Thomas is so kind. He always takes out the trash for her, even though that's her job.
That's awful. She'll probably start asking me to pitch in for household expenses soon. I can't stand the thought of that. Emma complained, and Michelle firmly declared,
Don't worry, I won't let that happen. If Laura dares to ask for household contributions, I'll kick her out of this house.
Really? You're the best, Mom.
So don't worry about anything, Emma. Just relax and take your time finding a job when you feel like it.
Thanks, Mom.
Hearing their conversation, I let out a small sigh and headed to my bedroom. like mother, like daughter. They live here as they please, with no understanding of how much effort I put into keeping our finances afloat each month. A few days later, Emma, who was now completely at ease in our home, had claimed the room next to the living room as her own. With Emma now as an ally, Michelle became even more overbearing, bossing me around and hurling verbal abuse more than ever.
Laura, I'm hungry. Make me some lunch.
I feel like steak for dinner tonight. Oh, and go pick up a cheesecake from that bakery in the next town.
Even while I was in my room working on my computer, they would constantly call to me through the door, completely breaking my focus.
Hey, make me some tea. That British one you ordered online the other day.
I took some of those cookies your friend gave you. They'll go great with tea, so make it now.
I can't right now. Give me an hour.
I said now. You're so inconsiderate.
Michelle's shrill voice turned hysterical.
Hey, are you even listening?
Yes. If I could go back to the moment Thomas first suggested we live with them, I'd firmly refuse. As I stood up from my chair, pausing my work once again, I clenched my fists in frustration. 3 years had passed since Emma barged into our home. Taking Michelle's words to heart, she hadn't bothered to look for a job and spent her days relaxing. Of course, she left all the household chores to me. No matter how busy I was running around, she and Michelle would sit together, watching TV or videos, laughing loudly as if they had no care in the world. Even when I closed my door and put in earplugs, their obnoxious laughter echoed through the entire house, making it impossible to concentrate. Meanwhile, Thomas still seemed intent on maintaining the illusion that he worked for a big company, at least in Michelle and Emma's eyes. He made me promise not to tell them the truth and handed over most of his part-time earnings to them as spending money. This left me covering the rent and living expenses for all four of us, totaling $4,000 a month, entirely out of my salary. Thomas, this isn't what we agreed on. I took the opportunity to confront Thomas while the two of them were out shopping. I knew it was probably pointless, but I couldn't keep it to myself any longer. When is Emma going to get a job? Neither she nor Michelle helps with any of the housework, and all they do is boss me around and make snide remarks. My stress is unbearable. Thomas, lounging on the couch and scrolling through his phone, looked up with irritation.
Don't you feel bad for Emma? She's still too traumatized by her broken engagement to work. Forcing her to get a job would be wrong.
But I'm cutting into my sleep just to keep up with everything. He sighed, clearly annoyed.
You're healthy, so you can handle it. We're family. It's what you do when someone's struggling.
That struck a nerve. In all the years since we got married, Michelle and Emma had never once done anything to help me. And I could confidently say they never would. Even though we'd only been married for 5 years, my love for Thomas had completely faded. Am I going to be stuck supporting these three forever? As those thoughts took root, and I carried on in a gloomy state of mind, a decisive event occurred. One afternoon, after finishing my shopping, I returned to the apartment building and walked through the entrance hall. From the far end, I heard Michelle and Emma's high-pitched voices. They must have just come down the elevator, ready to head out.
Laura doesn't do any housework.
Michelle's crude voice echoed through the entrance hall.
Really? Is that true?
It absolutely is. Laura is so arrogant. Isn't that right, Mom?
Emma chimed in, her tone shrill, responding to a surprised female resident.
Exactly. Every day, she lounges on the couch with her phone in hand, barking orders at me and Emma. She says, "I'm letting you live here, so you better work." And even though she's a stay-at-home wife, she spends Thomas's paycheck like it's nothing.
That's awful.
It was unclear whether the female residents believed their lies or were just humoring them, but the atmosphere became noticeably tense. Encouraged by this, Emma began speaking even faster.
Laura only agreed to let us live here so she could make us do the housework. She acts all sweet in front of Thomas, but we're exhausted from how much she makes us do every day.
Can't judge a book by its cover. That's scary.
It all made sense to me. Lately, whenever I greeted the neighbors in passing, they would avoid eye contact. Then they would quickly hurry away. This explains it. As I walked into the lobby, I ran into Michelle and Emma. They seemed momentarily startled, but quickly exchanged smug glances and smirked.
Oh no, the wicked wife heard us.
That's fine. It's the truth. Let's go grab some coffee.
The female residents glanced back at me briefly, but then walked out the front entrance shoulder to shoulder with Michelle and Emma.
Emma was abandoned by her partner and came to stay with Thomas and Laura.
Michelle had apparently told this story to the neighbors when Emma first moved in. Since then, they had attended residence meetings together and ingratiated themselves with the community. With their outgoing and friendly personalities, they fit in much better than I ever could, as someone shy and often cooped up working from home. They had no qualms about spreading outright lies, knowing full well that even if I told the truth, no one would believe me. The sheer unfairness of it all filled me with more misery than anger, and tears welled up in my eyes. I wiped them away with the back of my hand, got into the elevator, and returned to my apartment. Trying to distract myself, I began working on my computer, only to hear Michelle and Emma return home shortly after.
What's for dinner tonight? I feel like something fancy, maybe steak.
Emma's brazen voice echoed from behind the door once again.
That sounds great. I'd love a salad from that famous place in the next town. Go grab one for me.
Michelle cheerfully chimed in, her tone brimming with excitement. After the way they had just treated me, I couldn't fathom how they had the nerve to act like this.
Don't forget to grab that popular dessert, the one people wait an hour in line for. Hurry before it sells out.
Something inside me snapped. I stood up from my chair, strode to the doorway, and flung the door open. Enough already. When I spoke in a low voice, Michelle and Emma's eyes widened in surprise.
Hi, I'm back. What's going on?
Thomas had just returned and was walking toward us down the hallway. He looked puzzled when he saw my angry expression. Listen to this, Thomas. Michelle and Emma were just bad-mouthing me to the neighbors, spreading nothing but lies. As I unleashed my fury, Thomas responded with a remark that made me question my own ears.
Come on, they shouldn't have let you overhear that.
We just ran into her. It couldn't be helped.
Emma shrugged, glanced at me, and smirked with the corner of her lips curled up.
Who do you think you are to complain? You're just a leech with a pathetic income. You should be grateful we let you stay in this house.
Exactly. Who do you think you are?
Michelle chimed in, laughing mockingly.
You only survived because of Thomas.
Fine, Then I'll stop being both the wife and the breadwinner. When I stated it firmly, Thomas's face showed a hint of unease.
Hey,
I'm divorcing you, Thomas, and I'm moving out. That should make the two of you happy, right?
Divorcing? Don't be ridiculous. Thomas is the breadwinner, not you.
In front of Emma, who was laughing hysterically, I thrust the signed divorce papers at her. A while back, I signed the form and tucked it away in a drawer so that I could use it if I needed it someday.
Aren't you prepared? It's good for you that she will divorce you, Thomas.
yeah.
Sign it before Laura changes her mind.
Prodded by the two of them, Thomas reluctantly signed his name with a grimace. Even as I packed my clothes into my suitcase, Michelle and Emma stood nearby, hurling snide remarks at me.
Finally, it'll just be my family now.
Good riddance. Don't come crawling back later.
That's my line. I said that to the two of them and carried my suitcase to the front door. As I put on my shoes and turned around, I saw Thomas behind Michelle and Emma, looking visibly bewildered.
Hey, can't you reconsider? Don't take Mom and Emma's little joke so seriously.
I ignored Thomas's words and opened the heavy front door. Goodbye. I had completely lost any affection for Thomas, who stood by Michelle and Emma until the very end. If you want to play happy family, I'll gladly disappear. Whatever happens to you all afterward is no concern of mine. I left the apartment in my car, filed the divorce papers, and headed to a real estate agency. I found a weekly rental to stay in until I decided on a new home, signed the lease, and moved in. Once settled, I contacted the apartment management company and the insurance provider to transfer the ownership of the apartment and car into my name. I also went to a phone shop to change my number. Just blocking Thomas wasn't enough to satisfy me. On the way back, I picked up food and some wine, then enjoyed a quiet dinner in my new place. Thinking back, when I served store-bought food for dinner during busy times, Michelle and Emma would get furious, accusing me of trying to make them sick. What a terrible wife, they'd say. I had planned to work on some photo editing that evening, but moving and handling all the paperwork delayed my schedule. It was all because of those three. Although the thought made me angry, I realized I wouldn't have to deal with their interference anymore. I could finally work late into the night without being distracted by Michelle and Emma's laughter or their constant demands through the door. The next morning, despite being sleep deprived, I woke up feeling refreshed. The mysterious stomach aches and headaches I'd been experiencing disappeared as if by magic. Apparently, my stress they caused had been far greater than I had realized. A week later, I found a comfortable apartment outside the city and moved in. It was a rental located in a quiet residential neighborhood. About a month after that, my friend who worked at Thomas's company called me. She said Thomas was struggling to reach me for an important matter since my number was no longer in service. I had a good idea of what it was about, so I decided to call him myself.
Hello?
Thomas, it's me,
Laura, what the hell do you think you're doing?
he shouted angrily. What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. You changed the apartment and car ownership to your name.
We're divorced. Of course I did, I replied calmly. You're living in that apartment with Michelle and Emma, right? Then you should pay for it yourself, I said slowly and clearly, as if explaining to a child. The car loan is also your responsibility. Up until now, I was paying for it out of kindness.
Shut up. Together, the apartment car costs $2,000 a month. With the living expenses for the three of us, it's over $3,000. Do you think I can afford that on my $800 monthly income? Your family, you should help out.
Thomas shouted angrily, letting his frustration take over. Why should I help complete strangers? For that matter, until recently, I was covering all of your living expenses, $4,000 a month, and yet I don't recall ever being thanked for it.
How stingy can you be? A wife taking care of her husband's family is just how it's supposed to be.
Oh, so now that we're divorced, you still want me to pay?
You're the one who walked out on us. I never agreed to that.
Talking to Thomas felt like trying to communicate with an alien. I couldn't help but feel exasperated. Fine, I still have some belongings to pick up, so I'll come by this weekend.
Make sure you bring the money. I'll have Mom and Emma go out while you're here.
Why? What's the point of that? Thomas suddenly started speaking quickly, sounding nervous.
It's a marital issue. We need to talk about it, just the two of us.
All right, I replied, ending the call, though I couldn't help feeling suspicious about his behavior. When the day arrived, I entered the apartment and was immediately taken aback. A strong, unpleasant smell hit me, and I saw garbage strewn everywhere, from the entrance to the hallway, the kitchen, and the living room. Dirty dishes were piled high in the sink, and empty snack bags and crumbs littered the floor. I couldn't believe the state of the apartment after only a month of my absence. As I was looking around the room, Michelle and Emma returned from their outing.
We're back.
The pancakes were delicious.
What are you two doing back here?
As Thomas panicked, the two of them gave him puzzled looks.
Isn't Laura here to apologize to us?
If that's the case, we need to hear it directly.
Thomas shot me a resentful glare, but I ignored him and sat down on the living room sofa. I waited for Michelle and Emma to sit across from me before starting the conversation. Sorry to drop by unannounced. I wanted to apologize to you both for something I've kept secret. It's been weighing on my conscience.
What are you talking about?
I looked back and forth between Michelle and Emma, putting on a polite smile. Actually, Thomas quit his job a long time ago. He's a part-time worker now. Michelle and Emma's eyes went wide, while Thomas turned pale.
Laura.
What?
Michelle let out a shrill, bewildered voice, her face twisting in disbelief. Still smiling, I elaborated. Though he's working technically, 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. It's more like a high schooler's part-time job. The rest of his free time, he's been gambling and having fun. I had been suspicious since Thomas was giving pocket money to Michelle and Emma, but not contributing to household expenses, so I hired a private investigator. It turned out that after finishing his shifts at a restaurant in the early afternoon, he spent the rest of the day playing around until coming home in the evening. From the looks on your faces, you didn't know. It's not right to keep secrets from your family, is it? Next to a speechless Thomas, Emma burst out laughing.
Have you lost your mind? Thomas works for Brown Industries, a globally renowned corporation. He makes $60,000 a year, right, Mom?
Exactly. How dare you, a mere wife, insult Thomas like that?
But it's true. I swiped my finger across my phone screen and played back a recording of my conversation with Thomas from the other day.
Shut up. Together, the apartment and car cost $2,000 a month. Add in living expenses for the three of us, and it's over $3,000. How do you expect me to pay that on my $800 monthly income? Your family. You should help.
Thomas let out a strangled cry and buried his face in his hands.
$800 a month. You're kidding, right?
Michelle and Emma stared at Thomas in shock, their faces frozen in disbelief.
What's going on? When did you quit your job? Why didn't you tell me?
Michelle placed a hand on Thomas's shoulder and demanded loudly, but Thomas, his face contorted in frustration, remained silent. So I answered in his place. Right after we got married, he said it was because he didn't get along with his boss, but I found out that was a lie too. I placed a report from the investigator on the table, and Michelle and Emma quickly picked it up to read. Their faces stiffened as they scanned through the details. In reality, he was fired. The reason? He repeatedly harassed a new female employee, pressuring her to become his mistress, and the matter was reported to his boss. Michelle and Emma were left speechless, seemingly caught off guard by this revelation. Thomas, regaining his composure, turned on me furiously.
You sneaky little, investigating behind my back. You look so meek, but you're actually a nasty piece of work.
You've got me beat. I muttered a reply, but Thomas ignored me and glared at me with an angry expression.
And for all your high and mighty talk, you only make a few $100 a month, don't you?
He sneered, mocking me openly.
You've probably been begging your mom for help, using your dad's inheritance to cover the bills, haven't you?
Emma widened her eyes and looked at me.
Is that true? You're making less than Thomas, aren't you?
See? She's all arrogant, but she's just mooching off her parents. No way she's earning more than Thomas.
I was stunned as the three of them laughed, shaking their shoulders in relief. Do these people really need to put others down to feel better about themselves? I swallowed my rising anger and glanced at the clock on the wall. It's about time for the call. Let's see how they react. Right on cue, my work phone rang. It was my client, so I answered on speakerphone.
This is Robert, Vice President of Brown Industries. I hope I'm not disturbing you.
Not at all. Please go ahead. I gestured for the three of them to stay quiet as Robert continued.
Regarding the logo you designed for us recently, our CEO, John, would like to thank you personally. We were hoping to arrange a dinner meeting. Would that work for you?
Thank you. I'd be honored. The three of them exchanged confused glances, clearly suspicious of the conversation.
Great. We'll contact you with the details once the time and place are set.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. As I ended the call, Emma spoke hesitantly, her face strained.
Brown, that big corporation? No way. You don't mean.
Yes, the very same company Thomas got fired from. Even though I subtly added a touch of sarcasm, for once, none of them had a rebuttal. Thomas, unable to hide his unease, continued.
Come to think of it, they announced a new logo recently. People were saying how stylish and cool it was. Don't tell me you're the one who designed it.
It's me.
That's a lie. There's no way you have the skills for that.
As Michelle shouted, Thomas responded with a dazed expression.
Well, apparently, Laura studied design in college. I knew she switched to working from home on logo design projects, but I had no idea she was handling such a big job.
Wait a minute. What's your current annual income?
Emma asked nervously, and I gave her the answer. About $80,000, I'd say. At that moment, all three of them gasped and fell silent.
I can't believe it. You're making more than I did back then.
Thomas turned pale and began to tremble. For someone as prideful as him, it seemed to be quite a shock. Right after you quit your job, even though you knew our finances were tight, you brought Michelle and Emma to live with us.
They wanted to come. What was I supposed to do?
The mortgage was in both of our names, but when your income plummeted, I had to cover it. Add in living expenses for 4 people, and it totaled $4,000 a month. It was overwhelming. I continued in a low, firm voice. I took on more work, sacrificed sleep, and worked tirelessly. I had to dip into my savings while building up my portfolio until I finally started getting contracts from major companies.
So, you really worked hard, Laura.
So you weren't just pretending to be busy. You really were. Why didn't you tell us?
I glared at Thomas and Michelle, who were nervously laughing, and firmly said, "Michelle, that line you threw at me earlier, it's actually the opposite. Thomas was surviving thanks to me. Not that he ever realized it." Thomas and Michelle fell silent, their faces filled with frustration. Suddenly, Emma began to tremble.
What am I going to do? I racked up debt on Thomas's card. I thought we could easily afford it.
What? How much?
$10,000.
Thomas's eyes widened in shock.
$10,000. What are we going to do about that?
Why didn't you tell me we were being supported by Laura?
Next to a speechless Thomas, Michelle awkwardly confessed.
Actually, I spent about $15,000 on high-end shoes and handbags.
"Whoa, is that so? Well, it's no longer my concern. Now that this discussion is over, I'll pack my things and leave," I said cheerfully as I stood up from the sofa and started to leave the room, but Thomas grabbed onto my arm.
I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I'll help with the housework from now on. Let's start over. I can't handle paying off Mom and Emma's debts.
Thomas's voice cracked as he begged, on the verge of tears. Emma suddenly made a shocking confession.
Actually, I cheated during my engagement, so now I'm paying alimony.
What?
Along with Thomas and Michelle, I also blinked in surprise. This was a fact I was hearing for the first time. Emma continued, smiling sweetly.
It doesn't seem like I can borrow any more money from Thomas, and I really don't want to work. So I was hoping Laura could cover it for me. I'll pay you back someday, okay?
As Emma pleaded with me, Michelle's eyes narrowed angrily.
Wait, you cheated. It wasn't your partner who betrayed you.
If I told the truth, you'd have been mad at me.
Of course I would. You liar.
Ignoring Thomas's sobs and Michelle's yelling, I firmly declared, "I refuse. From now on, you can all work together as a family and figure it out yourselves." Shaking off Thomas's grip, I walked into the bedroom. I quickly packed up the rest of my belongings into boxes, arranged for a moving company to deliver them to my new place, and left the apartment. Later, I heard from a friendly neighbor that after I left, their shouting echoed through the hallway late into the night, prompting another resident to call the police. The police gave the three of them a stern warning before leaving. Since the argument was audible to everyone, Their situation became the talk of the building. Unable to face the scrutiny, they moved out a few days later. It was likely a practical decision, given they wouldn't have been able to pay the rent at the end of the month anyway. According to mutual acquaintances, Thomas also couldn't keep up with his car payments and eventually had to sell the vehicle. Apparently, he learned his lesson from this ordeal and began dedicating the time he used to waste on gambling to working part-time jobs, raising his annual income to about $20,000. However, Emma and Michelle remained as lazy as ever, refusing to do any housework and continuing to live off Thomas's income.
The eldest son supporting his family is just how it should be.
Exactly. Keep working hard to pay off our debts.
They shamelessly relied on Thomas, who finally snapped.
Are you kidding me? If you're home all day, at least do some housework. This place is a complete dump.
Arguments like this became a daily occurrence, even in their rundown apartment. Their constant fighting earned them a reputation as troublesome tenants, and the landlord has already demanded they move out. Since Michelle, Emma, and Thomas are no longer in my life, I've been able to enjoy a comfortable and peaceful daily routine. Perhaps my newfound peace of mind has contributed to the high praise I've been receiving, as major projects keep coming my way. The other day, during a meal with the CEO John, he gave me glowing compliments. His face lit up with a warm smile.
I'd love for you to design the logo for our new product. Can we count on you?
Of course, I'd be delighted to take it on, I replied immediately. The success of my work with Brown Industries has sparked a flood of requests from other companies as well, leaving me happily overwhelmed. It brings me so much joy to know that my work can put a smile on someone's face. Though my marriage was a failure, my new life is just beginning. I plan to continue balancing work and my personal life, making the most of each fulfilling day ahead.